for having me. And so I'm going to read a little something for y'all. The following is a true story. My name is Leslie Sylvester Franklin. They call me Sil in Colorado Springs, where I grew up. And they call me Les at IBM, where I worked. And they call me Frank in the military, where I helped protect the country. Hockey was my favorite, but I was best at football. I probably would have been equally as good as hockey if I'd had the opportunity to skate, just as much as the opportunity to play football. I was a young man, and I was rooming with a guy. His name was Forrest. And when he was married, I was in college. Then he got divorced, and he needed a place to stay. So I had a 2-bedroom duplex. It was on Pontiac Street in Denver. He needed a place to stay, so he came to stay with me. So he had a new girlfriend. His new girlfriend was best friends with the lady that I married. He never married his girlfriend, but I married her. And that's how that happened. We were married probably 12 years, and then we were divorced when Jamon was 12 and Shaka was 6. I raised them myself from that point on. When we divorced, Shaka he never handled it well. But I never really knew that. Jamon was older and he had friends who were in the same situation, and he handled it, I thought, a lot better than Shaka. Shaka was devastated. Shaka felt like he was being given away by his mother, that she really didn't care. I think that had a deep effect on him. He had a lot of anger. He was breaking things in the house. Shaka never ever wanted me to meet or marry anybody else. He wanted me to remarry his mother, and he said as much when he was a boy. Shaka, he loved sports. He loved football, and I think he wanted to take it all the way. He loved to give bear hugs. He was just a nice, sweet kid. We were buddies. We hung out every single Friday. If you dated me, you dated Shaka. He could bake a cake from scratch, and he used to babysit for a little girl down the block. That day, I took him to school. I remember him standing up in the bathroom, and he was quiet, and he was moving very slow. I said, Shaka, come on, we're going to be late. I had to go to work. I was taking Marianne to work. And he knew then what he was going to do. I could see him looking at me in the mirror. He was looking at me real long and hard, and I wish I could go back and say, Shaka, let's hang out today. I'm not going to go to work. But he didn't give me any indication other than that he was real quiet. So I took him to school, and he kind of walked to the back door, and walking with his head down like he was dejected. And that's when I should have right then, right there, knew something was wrong. But I didn't know anything was wrong. And then when I came home, I found him in his bedroom with a bullet hole in his head. Ooh. He wasn't dead, but he was dying. He was brain dead. And that's what I remember. I remember looking at him and thinking he fell and hurt himself, then seeing the pistol between his legs, and he had neatly hung up his jacket on the back of the chair. And I called 911, and I screamed to Marianne, and she was calling on one line, and I was calling on the other line. We were both calling, and when they got there, I remember the police, I never touched him ever. I just remember the police saying, I heard him say, it's a 25-year-old man, and I said, no, he's not 25, he's 16. The cop just looked at me, and he was looking at me suspiciously, I know. So I called a friend. The ambulance just took him. I knew he was gone because the ambulance just took him real slow. They didn't even rush. He died later that night at the hospital. I called his mother, and everybody came. Somebody called the governor because I was working for him at the time. I think he came. Something in my psyche told me something's going to happen to Jamon, but it was Shaka. And it was weird because from the day Jamon was born, I knew he was going to die. And I was always on edge about him. But then when it happened to Shaka, it just blew me away. I told Shaka and Jamal that anytime there was anything they wanted me to do, they came first. But they were such good kids, they just couldn't do that. They never said, Dad, I really want you to go here, or I really want you to do this. I was the guy that saved my vacation, and I used to go to school. I'm the one who sat in school when I was married. My wife didn't sit in the classes and go to PTA. I was the domesticated one. I'm angry with Jamal, but I'm not angry with Shaka. I'm angry with Jamal because Jamal knew the pain that he would cause. He got so caught up in drugs, he started blaming me. In fact, he told me, he said, Dad, it's your fault Shaka is dead. I never said a word. I just looked at him. It broke my heart for him to say that. But now I know what he was into. He was into drugs. It was the drugs that had him talking that way. His death broke his brother's heart because, they were buddies. Shaka was like, is it okay? He had always been like that, like he was his little baby. Jamal just couldn't handle it. It wiped him out. Jamal entered college at the age of 17 and was 21 with only 3 classes to go when Shaka died. It took him from 22 to 32, 10 years to finish those 3 classes. We drove down to make arrangements to get him to take 2 different classes that he needed to finish. I let him take the car. It was a rental car when we were there, and the next thing I know, it's stolen. I had a pair of ice skates in the back. And I was like, how do you get this car stolen? How does this happen? But I knew he sold the car for drugs. I'm sure that's what he did. We came back. I had a Chevy Suburban. That car was stolen about 4 times. I kept asking him, how does the car get stolen? How does it happen? So either he's so wiped out that he's leaving it there and he's letting guys take it. And I thought he was kind of dreaming because he went to school with Bill Cosby's son, Enos Cosby. And the car was found on the side of the highway with the door open, right? Just like Enos. Like copycat things. Jamal would do some really silly things. And unfortunately, as soon as Jamal got his degree, he took his life. We came back from holiday. We spent 3 weeks in Europe. And when we got home, Marianne said, there's somebody in the car. I didn't even look. I already knew. I just went upstairs and called 911. He was naive. He was a follower. Shaka was a leader. Jamal followed other people and got into stuff and had people get him into things that Shaka I know would have never done. And I certainly never did. There are things I suspect that have gone on and happened because there are people that I know love Jamal, and he was a really good person. That girl he was with, though, led him down a bad path. No, I don't feel the same. There will never be a Jamal's place. I'll never have a Jamal's place. I don't want to do anything to encourage people to think that you can just take your life and someone's going to create a monument on your behalf. He was a mature baby, my Shaka. But he was a baby. I don't care if he was just 16. He was still a baby, and he was my baby. He was just dealing with a lot of stuff I didn't know that he was dealing with. But no, I don't feel the same. I love him as my son, but as you can see in this room, the difference from this and that, it's not the same. The difference is right here. There was nothing those boys couldn't have been able to overcome. If they had engaged me and gotten involved and we had discussions, maybe sought the help that they needed. I just think Shaka felt no one loved him, no one cared. I know he felt that way. I think he felt he was the stepchild in the family, and he wasn't. But he didn't know that. But he never talked. He was too nice to say, Dad, why didn't you do this for me? Why didn't you buy me this? He never asked me to buy him anything. Never, ever. And that's wrong. It's not normal for a kid to never ask you to buy him anything, toys or clothing, nothing. And I remember one Christmas out there, I was spending $3,000 or $4,000 worth of stuff, and it was stuff everywhere, and they tore into those boxes and went on and on about what they were doing. And I never did that again because I felt like they were spoiled and it didn't mean anything to them. But I don't know how a father could love his kids any more than I did. I mean, I loved those boys. I'd stand in the middle of the floor with the two of them, and we had our arms around each other, and I'd say, we have to stick together, we have to stick together. And they swore they would. Both of them liked him.